Right, now that we have invited Elmira to stay, I think it is about time to dive right in to the Elmira Clamp fact-finding mission. The profile says this. Elmira Clamp grew up between an airport and a construction site in a tiny house with thin walls. Her father was the lead drummer in the experimental rock band Nothing But Drums, and her mother raised howler monkeys. Elmira hates noise, and she hates Sims who make noise. Like her auntie Crumplebottom taught her, the best mouth is a shut mouth. So this explains why she's a rather sarcastic, snarky librarian. Interests are studious and spooky, and she hates fun. So we're going to get on like a house on fire? I thought I was going to like the librarian. Clearly not. Yes, when I was deciding who was going to move into my town, I left that space just for the library. Because I love books, and I wanted a library next door. And that seemed like the perfect place. Anyway, Elmira's Auntie Crumplebottom, is most likely referencing a character from The Sims 2 Nightlife, who's named Mrs. Crumplebottom, which would imply that she's kind of partially related to the Goth family, which is one of the most famous Sims families. Also, the Goth and the Crumpleton families have a large amount of members with the grumpy trait, and appear to have many dead relatives, so that's probably why Elmira is the way she is. Now, her father's experimental rock band is actually the favourite rock band of one of the townie Sims in the game, Odin Revolution, who turns up at star level 4. I'll discuss him more later on. She also has a nephew, who is Ian Arneson, and when she reads a book, the hedgehog that's on the book looks a lot like Filbert, who's a hedgehog who appears in MySims Kingdom, and in 2 particular locations. There's also sort of a level of irony about Elmira, because she hates loud noises, but she yells at people. And also, she appears in MySims Party, seeing how it's ironic, because she hates noise, throwing parties, and confetti. So, oh dear, well, she seems to be enjoying that confetti, partially, somehow. Really? No? No. Will you stop with the confetti, me? I mean, I know I'm trying to get happy essences, but seriously. You've got better ways of getting it. Don't worry, Elmira, we'll cheer you up, good and proper. Now, we've got quite a long session to do here, with quite a lot of essence finding and a lot of building. So let's just stay strong, and we will do this. We will manage. And seeing as we are helping put together a library, I might as well go into a bit about my English degree that I'm doing. Just because it means that I get to talk about books. And this is fittings, because as I said, we're putting together a library. Anyway, one of the things that I really, really want to do when I get a house of my own is I just want lots of books in it. I want lots of bookshelves everywhere. It'll look like a library, apart from the fact that it'll be much less quiet. And I want to fill it with, like, all of the books from my childhood, quite a few books that I have studied over the course of my degree. Some of them I will ignore, because I can't say I ever want to read The Visions of Julian of Norwich ever again. For those of you who don't know, which will be most of you, I sound very indie saying that, Julian of Norwich was an anchoress in the medieval period, so 1300 to about 1500-ish. And basically what the Anchoresses did was they locked themselves away from the world to be close to God, which seems completely bizarre, but that's the case. Now, Julian of Norwich wrote down a series of visions that she had. I think it was before she became an Anchoress, and this became sort of a big thing for other Anchoresses in England. It's all about sort of the importance of being close to God and so on and so forth. And as much as I'm interested in the medieval period, Julian of Norwich is really boring. I would not recommend any of you read it. Anyway, I should probably point out that what was happening there was just a lot of collecting dark wood, I believe. Or kind of just because it was cutting down trees and building them back up, and it takes forever, so it was just like, right, just skip all of that, just ignore it. And came here. We don't need to do much digging about here for the minute, because all we need is 8 terracottas, and there we go. I think you can only find 2 things in that particular location, which is good, because it's so out of the way. It's just a pain to get to, so the less you have to get from there, the better, really. Anyway, I'll return now to the world of literature. So, as I've said, I'm not particularly keen of Julian of Norwich, but there are other medieval texts which are actually really fun. Chaucer, in the Canterbury Tales, some of the tales are really awesome. I have to say I'm quite a fan of the Pardoner's Tale, which some people will probably be doing for A-levels in the UK. I'm also quite a fan of the Tale of Sir Topaz, just because it's ridiculous, and the Nun's Priest's Tale, because that's quite fun as well. And some of his other poems that Chaucer did, like the Book of the Duchess, quite liked that, but then some of the stuff he's done is not as fun. I'm not really a fan of Troilus and Crusade, because that's a bit too, well, it's not that it's overly long, it's just that it features lots of swooning, lots of manly swooning, and I'm not quite sure what I think of it. It's not the swooning that bothers me, it's just the excessive amounts of it. Also, in the medieval period, there are poems like The Tale of the Incestuous Daughter, The Tale of the Adulterous Falmouth Squire, and The Tale of the Basin. The Tale of the Incestuous Daughter features a daughter fornicating with her father and then murdering her entire family. Tale of the Basin features an affair, and then the reason for them getting caught is that they touch a magic basin, which is a bathtub, and they get stuck to it whilst they are naked and basically in the act. And other people get attached to this unfortunate incident as well, including, I think, a gardener and a lady of the night. So they can get particularly bizarre and hilarious, and it's awesome. It's also particularly awesome when you get to see like the original manuscripts, which is a very rare thing to be able to do, but because of where I go to university, I do get that opportunity. I saw the Adulterous Falmouth Squire, Incestuous Daughter, and Tale of the Basin all turn up in the same manuscript, which is called the particular manuscript that it is, it's called FF548. And I actually got to see it, and I think, if I recall, did I get to touch it? Might have done, might not have been allowed to, because obviously it's very fragile, because it's from 1300 to 1500, so it's like about 700 years old. So I've been in contact with a 700-year-old book. I feel quite special. And it's quite awesome because they have, like, I mean, most people will probably know that in older books there are generally lots of drawings which are called illuminations, and they can be quite fancy. I mean, I've seen a manuscript featuring Chaucer's poems, particularly the Canterbury Tales, and the illuminations in that are stunning. They are brilliantly composed, and it's unfortunate that quite a few have been lost. It's basically people who are just like, ooh, that looks fancy and is probably worth a lot of money. Rip! Which is disgusting that people treat a book that way, but people do, and so they are lost to time. However, in lesser, cheaper texts, because basically you have the books which have been done professionally by scribes, and then you will have the stuff that people did themselves, which is what this FF548 is. And in it there was an illumination that someone had done, featuring a goat with an X-ray laser coming out of its nose, which has nothing to do with the poems that it surrounds. Clearly someone was just like, I need some paper. This is paper. That wasn't exactly paper, it was sheepskin that's been treated, so you can write on it. And let's just say, it smells. Definitely smelled. But it's just amazing to see the nose goat, the nose laser goat. I just love the fact that exists. It's just quite awesome. I will, and also sort of, I'm focusing quite a lot on medieval at the minute, but over the course of my 3 years in my degree, I will pretty much be covering the entire course of English literature. I'm not necessarily going to be covering American texts or like stuff like the Divine Comedy, although that has partial impacts in what I'm doing. It's not as important. But I will be covering what is essentially 1,000 years of English literature, because of the paper choices that I've done. I'm studying from 1066 all the way up to the present day. So that's a massive amount of English literature. I mean, there is the slight problem that in certain cases I'm not spending a massive amount of time on a particular period. It's like I had 8 weeks on medieval, I had 8 weeks on Renaissance, I will have 8 weeks on, it's about 1700 to 1800 and then 1830 to present-ish. But then I have, at the minute, as of recording this commentary, I am in my Shakespeare term, so I'm spending a grand total of 6 weeks studying the works of Shakespeare. So I've learnt a lot about Shakespeare. I won't go too much into it now because it may become relevant again later in the playthrough. Totally not foreshadowing further conversation. Conversation? It's not really a conversation, it's more of a ongoing rambling soliloquy, if anything. I'm not exactly in dialogue with anyone, because I'm clearly a complete and utter sado who talks over video games on his own. But moving away from that and back to the books, although we're not exactly making books at the minute, we are building a chair. But it's not as interesting as talking about books. At least I hope not. Well, it's more interesting talking about books for me. Whether you guys enjoy it as much is a different matter. But I would say that of my hobbies, the two biggest are video games and English literature. More so the books than the study of it. But they are kind of the two biggest inspirations and things that occur in my life. Which is ever so slightly worrying, that I spent most of my time with my nose in something, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Anyway, let's move this desk and chair in here. Ever so slightly worried that there's not really a place to put it. I should probably put this in her room, because this is just gonna block out whatever space I have left. But there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Oh well. I quite like the wall hanging that Elmira has, because obviously it's a reference to Da Vinci and that man thing. Can't remember the name of it, which is absolutely appalling. But for the sake of being useful, I am going to use the Googles to locate it. I can't believe I've just said the Googles. But it's happened. It's not nearly as bad as the previous version of this this particular part commentary that I've done, because basically what happened was my microphone hadn't been plugged in properly, so I was going through doing the commentary, and then realised that it was my laptop's onboard microphone, which just got terrible sound quality. It's absolutely appalling. And also I've got my laptop's cooling sound running, so basically all you could hear was just this distant murmuring. I mean, that's being a bit harsh on the sound quality, but you get my drift. Anyway, it's the Vitruvian Man that I was talking about with Da Vinci, which I think fits Elmira. That level of sophistication works with her. She may be stuck up. Well, she's not really stuck up, she's just very, very picky about noise. Which is understandable considering how she grew up, but still, it's just like, come on, girl. Don't be too stuffy about the noise. Or, that is, unless you're working and trying to concentrate, in which case I could completely understand. Noise can be so irritating. Particularly, one thing when you're trying to do commentary and then there's noise, it's just like, God's sake! It's particularly worse when you can't do anything about it. As is sometimes the case when you're at uni, but there's not a lot you can do. Although there's something that I'm intrigued to point out, is that in Elmira's library, there's not really much of a place to work, which is not going to wouldn't please people here at university, because people work in the library. It's a nice place of quiet. Although I guess there is a desk. It's one desk, not particularly that useful. But yeah, libraries can be scary places when people are working, especially during exam terms, because people are in there and they expect silence, which isn't particularly helpful when you're trying to get through and all you can hear is the rustle of your bag as you attempt to get those books that you desperately need for an essay. It's absolutely wonderful experience. Although I will say that there are other places where I am where you can revise, and let's just say they are even more terrifying than being in a library. Because in those places, in a library, sort of, even though they expect silence, there is a certain understanding that there will be people coming to and from the area, and there will be people who strike up the odd conversation quietly. However, there are certain rooms that basically you open the door and heads just swivel round to you because you have interrupted their incredibly important revision time, which is terrifying. Thankfully, I haven't had to enter that room yet. I don't think I will. I will just stick to my personal room and revise here, because it's safe, and also it means that I can just have some nice, calming music, nominally video game related, sometimes film related, sometimes just incredibly cheesy pop, just playing in the background. It's working wonders for my concentration, surprisingly. I thought it wouldn't work, because normally when I've tried to listen to music I've had my headphones on, and considering the way my headphones are, they just don't assist in a good learning, revising/learning environment, because there's just a constant thing of them being on your ears. I mean, I like my headphones, they are awesome and blue, but they aren't conducive to working. But I've developed a new working style, which seems to be helping somewhat. We will see the results of this in a few weeks. Ooh. If you follow me on Twitter, I don't normally discuss this in commentaries because I don't like people discussing it, but if you go on Twitter and see me, you may hear about how my work ethic has, whether it's succeeded or not. Although by the time this part comes out, that may or may not be exactly the time of said finding out. We shall see. Anyway, lots of bookshelves in this last one, which is ever so slightly irritating. But actually, it'll be fine. I've just looked at my schedule, and yes, it'll be in the future from now. You will never know specifically when this was recorded. Ha! All you will know is that in the future from today, the day that it comes out, there will be something potentially on my Twitter feed describing how I have succeeded in something or other. I hope. It might just be sort of a thing of just tears and misery, but we shall hope that that's not the case, and proceed onward with happiness and glory. And we need to get this bookshelf fitted in. I'd say it's not going to fit anywhere, so it's just going to have to go in Elmira's little off-side room. We don't have much choice in that matter. So yes, that is indeed a library full of books, and we have finished furnishing the library. So now it's time to go and invite someone new to Bellbridge. Although, we've actually unlocked star level 4, so that gives us the blowtorch, which means we can access everywhere in town. So how about we go and do tasks and explore? Yes!